Another important mission of the center at Fort Bliss is the training of cattlemen and replacements for guided missile units. This is done by the 1st Guided Missile Brigade, composed of the 1st and 2nd Guided Missile Groups. The brigade is a unique training organization designed to keep pace with any new developments in this fast-growing field. Such exacting jobs as loading, launching, and handling guided missiles are taught here. Any guided missile, including those yet to be conceived by the scientists at White Sands Proving Ground in nearby New Mexico, where the big picture camera goes now to show you an actual missile shoot. From the lonely desert outpost it once was, White Sands today is a 4,000 square mile area, teeming with activity as a proving ground for guided missiles. When activated, it was to serve only as a temporary testing facility, but its amazing growth and importance increased to such a point that in September 1948, it was reclassified as a permanent ordnance activity. Before this test is started, can you tell us a few facts about what's going on?
Well, we have here set up a complete Nike system. Over there in the short distance there, you can see the missiles. Normally, now there's one coming up. You'll see just right now. It's just slowly coming up into its position that it will be fired from. The one to the left there, of course, is lying down and will stay down on its launching rail. Now, off to the right here, we have the actual complicated equipment that guides this missile.
See.
You'll see here in just a moment that the thing will be up in the normal position for firing.
Now you're proofing this equipment, is that right?
Yes, what we have done now is to take this system and set it up and adjust it, and we're now about ready to fire a test missile.
Now, just before we go, about how much time is it before the shoot actually will take place?
There's approximately 7 or 8 minutes.
I see. Well, now, before that goes, tell us about yourself, how you take part in the White Sands Proving Ground as a civilian engineer scientist.
Well, of course, there are a lot of us here engaged in the Nike program and as well as other programs, but there still aren't enough. We need more here as well as, of course, in different parts of the country. There's a great need for trained electronic men, engineers, physicists, and so on. We don't have enough.
Well, as we drove through the proving grounds, we noticed there was an awful great deal of testing going on at that time.
Yes, well, that's what we're engaged in here, is testing this thing. This system is fresh out of the factory now, and we're trying it out and proofing it. That's actually what we do here, proof test program.
Now, how are we going to tell when this Nike is going to go off?
You will hear the regular countdown. They count down second by second, and when it gets to 0, somebody pushes the fire switch and the missile takes off.
Well, we better step back then and wait for that counting down. Is that correct?
Very, very good.
While we're waiting, we look at one of the many test stands where the rocket motor's thrust is gauged while the rocket is in a fixed position. The impact of this motor thrust is studied carefully by the scientists, who can thus deduce precisely the motor's power. And now it's about time to get back to the missile launching.
45 seconds.
We're about ready to fire the missile now. In the background, you can hear the countdown.
35 seconds.
It's 35 seconds before takeoff.
30 seconds.
When the time gets down to 0, you will see the customary flash from the bottom of the missile, and it will be on its way.
25 seconds.
Coming up on 20 seconds now.
20 seconds. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8.
There's 8 seconds to go.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire.
Just as these vehicles probe constantly into space, so the pursuit of scientific research goes on into every phase of guided missiles at White Sands Proving Ground, aptly called the Miracle of Tularosa Basin. This is Lieutenant John Mortimer bidding you goodbye from the last stop in our tour of some of the installations in the 4th Army area. We're on our way now to 5th Army, where we'll be with you next week.
And that's the story of 4th Army, another in the Big Picture special series of on-the-spot reports of our Continental armies. Next week, we'll continue our guided tour of America's forces in the zone of the interior. The Big Picture camera will be focused on an army which sprawls over 13 states, in area the largest of our great continental forces, the 5th Army. This is Sergeant Stuart Queen inviting you to tune in next week for another look at your Army in action on The Big Picture.
The Big Picture is a weekly television report to the nation on the activities of the Army at home and overseas. Produced by the Signal Corps Pictorial Center. Presented by the U.S. Army in cooperation with this station. You can be an important part of the Big Picture. You can proudly serve with the best equipped, the best trained, the best fighting team in the world today, the United States Army.